WADR, promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and welcome to NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Dakar High Court orders reinstatement of Senegalese opposition Ousmane Sonko on the February 2024 electoral list. Guinea-Bissau's police fire tear gas to disperse defiant opposition members of parliament. Nigerian junta Abdurrahman Chani affirms prolonged house arrest of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. And nearly 200 nations call for global transition away from fossil fuel as COP28 summit concludes.
Together, we have confronted realities and we have set the world in the right direction. We have given it a robust action plan to keep 1.5 within reach.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Tawfiq Abdul Nasser with NewsLink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. Beginning the bulletin here in Senegal, today the Dakar High Court has mandated the restoration of Senegalese political figure Ousmane Sonko to the electoral rolls. Despite the initial decision by the court to exclude him from the list, this reversal by the Dakar court, accompanied by official approval, has the potential to reinvigorate the candidacy of the incarcerated opponent for the upcoming presidential election in February 2024. For more details, here is Oge Obi Erika.
The High Court upheld the judgment from October reinstating Sonko, who was removed from electoral list after receiving a 2-year prison sentence in June for a morals case. Sonko now has until December 26 to submit his application and secure his sponsorship. His supporters gathered at the court, celebrating the news with jubilation and chanting the opponent's name. Sire Cledoli, one of Sonko's lawyers, clarified that while the state could appeal to the Supreme Court, such an appeal would not suspend the decision. He has been speaking with the media after the verdict.
Nous avons toujours eu le droit de notre côté. Et le Sénégal est un pays qui était sur la rampe de la démocratie.
We have always had the rights on our side to see, and Senegal is a country that was on the ramp towards democracy. But there are those who want to not only destroy the rule of law, but also democracy. In my intervention of 2 days ago, I had said that I have good hope in this country. There are still men of value, courageous and honest magistrates, who apart from their person, so have Senegal at heart, the future of our children and our grandchildren, who will fight for the rule of law and for democracy.
L'avenir de nos enfants et de nos petits-enfants qui se battront pour l'état de droit et pour la démocratie.
He emphasized that according to the Electoral Code, once a judge makes a decision, it must be immediately executed. The opposition leader had been imprisoned at the end of July on other charges, including incitement to insurrection, criminal association related to a terrorist enterprise, and endangering state security. Sonko alleged that these charges, along with others, are orchestrated efforts to exclude him from the presidential election. In response, the government denies any manipulation of justice.
Oge Obi Erika reporting there. Let's now head to Guinea-Bissau, where the National Police on Wednesday fired tear gas to disperse members of the opposition in parliament who attempted to gather in defiance of President Umaru Sissoco Embalo's decision to dissolve the legislative body. Embalo took the step of dissolving the opposition-controlled parliament last week, alleging its passivity in the face of gunfire and clashes in the capital on December 1 events he later characterized as an attempted coup. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
The opposition coalition led by the PAIGC party secured a majority in the June legislative elections. However, they vehemently rejected the president's decision, deeming it unconstitutional. Citing a specific article in the constitution, they argue that dissolving parliament within a year of its election is prohibited. In the current political framework in Bissau, the majority party or coalition is responsible for appointing the government. However, The president holds the authority to dismiss it under certain circumstances, often resulting in political standoffs. Members of parliament, accompanied by the assembly president, Domingos Sirmos Pereira, faced dispersal by the police, who employed tear gas in front of the parliament building. Armando Mango, a parliamentarian from the PAIGC coalition, reported that they attempted to access the National Assembly, but law enforcement prohibited entry. Despite being dispersed with tear gas, Mango emphasized their unwavering determination. The history of Guinea-Bissau has been marked by several coups and periods of unrest since gaining independence from Portugal in 1974. Notably, a failed coup to overthrow President Embalo in February 2022 resulted in at least 6 fatalities.
Abdullahi Hassan filed that report. Now, the Nigerian junta appears unimpressed by the apparent shift in the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS' position transitioning from a rigid stance to a more flexible one. General Abdurrahman Chani, in a televised address, definitively stated that the house arrest of Bazoum would persist for the foreseeable future. Recall, during a meeting held last Sunday in Abuja, the regional bloc presented the Nigerian head of state with the opportunity to evade sanctions by unconditionally releasing ousted President Bazoum and his family, accompanied by a brief transitional period. In the face of potential resistance from the Nigerian junta, ECOWAS has issued a warning of maintaining sanctions. To mediate the situation, Benin President Patrice Talon has been appointed. However, international relations experts have expressed skepticism about the success of this mediation, citing the strained relationship between Benin and Niger. We'll bring you more on this report in the second half of the bulletin.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NewsLink continues.
On Wednesday, nearly 200 nations in Dubai approved a first-ever call for the world to transition away from fossil fuels, the top culprit of climate change behind a planetary crisis. After 13 days of talks and another sleepless night in a country built on oil wealth, the leadership of the COP28 summit banged a gavel to signal the world had reached a consensus. Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, head of the United Arab Emirates National Oil Company, is president of the just-ended COP28.
Together, we have confronted realities and we have set the world in the right direction. We have given it a robust action plan to keep 1.5 within reach. It is a plan that is led by the science. It is a balanced plan that tackles emissions, bridges the gap on adaptation, reimagines global finance, and delivers on loss and damage. It is built on common ground. It is strengthened by full inclusivity, and it is reinforced by collaboration. It is an enhanced, balanced, but make no mistake, historic package to accelerate climate action. It is the UAE consensus.
Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, head of the United Arab Emirates National Oil Company, is president of COP28. The declaration in Dubai marked the first mention of all fossil fuels in 28 years of climate summit. Now, in a related development, climate activists have converged in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, to press home the need for sustained awareness about climate change. The group is calling for the involvement of young people in the campaign against actions that hurt the environment. Abuja correspondent Usman Umar has more details.
Massive amounts of pollution, totally unprecedented, upsetting the delicate balance of this incredible entity called planet Earth.
The Dawn Project, an environmentalist group convened in Lagos, southwestern Nigeria, to bring attention to the key concerns raised at COP28. Their primary focus is on ensuring that issues of pollution become a shared concern for everyone.
And we've identified millions and millions of planets all over now, even beyond our galaxy, and not a single one of them has the capacity to support life as we know it. And then this goes to the elders, to the people who have been making the decisions so far. It's not just our life support system, it's our children.
A lot of people are talking about how many people, COP28, how many people went from the Nigerian government, 1,411. Oh, why did so many people go? But you know what I want to tell you? It's a good thing. Why is it a good thing, you may say? Because now climate change is trending in Nigeria.
Emphasizing their commitment, the group seeks to drive their message home by actively involving the younger generation.
The solutions are not just in our hands, but in the hands of everybody here. And you will probably be carrying a lot more going forward. It's going to keep getting worse unless we do something and start now.
Government can't do everything. When we say plant a tree, we're asking you as the public to plant a tree and plant as many trees as possible.
The Dawn Project has pledged to persist in its advocacy for environmental pollution. Their objective is to reach out to all relevant stakeholders contributing to the environment's efforts in fulfilling Nigeria's commitment made at COP28. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
The ECOWAS Commission recently conducted a 3-day national dialogue workshop in the Gambia, centering on social security reform and governance for various stakeholders. The discussion prominently highlighted the interaction between the Office of National Security and civil society. From Banjul, WADR's Sanko Lejanko reports.
The primary focus of the 3-day meeting is to familiarize the stakeholders with security sector reform policies, namely National Security Policy, National Security Strategy, Security Sector Reform Strategy, and National Defense Policy. Ms. Miata Lily French is the ECOWAS ambassador to the Gambia.
At this juncture, it is important to highlight two key components of the ECOWAS policy framework for SSRG. The first is human security. The second is conflict prevention, one that places it as an aspect of conflict prevention.
Boubacar Jeng, the head of the ECOWAS Security Division, highlights ECOWAS' security sector reform policy designed to guide reforms in member countries. He emphasizes regional bloc's commitment to supporting Gambia in its security sector reform process.
And we've been here since the beginning, helping Gambia in all the process leading to the adoption of all the instruments you are having now. And we are here today to facilitate the dialogue between the Office of the National Security and the civil society. Because civil society organizations are also part of the process of security sector reform.
National Security Advisor Abubakar Suleiman Jeng stresses the importance of the meeting and the Gambia government's dedication to security sector reform agenda.
The Gambia government remains committed to the SSR process and will continue to demonstrate political will and leadership, and correspondingly, inclusivity is cardinal, and the Office of National Security, mandated to lead the SSR process, will continue to endeavor collaboration and partnership with the citizens, of which civil society could play a vital role as an important stakeholder.
The ongoing security sector reform in the Gambia is pivotal for the country's endeavor to align its security standards with global norms. A national dialogue with stakeholders follows an announcement by ECOWAS heads of state extending the mandate of regional troops in the Gambia due to continued political and security challenges. For NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sanko Lejanko reporting from Banjul.
You're listening to NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Dakar High Court orders reinstatement of Senegalese opposition Ousmane Sonko on the February 2024 electoral list. Guinea-Bissau's police fired tear gas to disperse defiant opposition members of parliament. Nigerian junta Abdurrahman Chani affirms prolonged house arrest of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, and nearly 200 nations call for global transition away from fossil fuel as COP28 summit concludes. Still ahead is the press review, the guest interview, and sports updates. Stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
Now, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, CENTAL, has unveiled its State of Corruption Report 2023, wherein over 90% of the 728 survey participants expressed that corruption is alarmingly prevalent in the country. Described as a comprehensive document by CENTAL, the State of Corruption Report 2023 highlights the extent of corruption and outlines necessary measures to enhance transparency and accountability in Liberia. WADR's Darlington Popper has a report.
During the presentation on Wednesday, Gerald Yakula, CENTAL's program manager, conveyed that a majority of respondents highlighted a high level of corruption, with police services being identified as the most corrupt, closely followed by medical services.
9 out of 10 persons are saying corruption is high in the country. So many people say because there's a prosecution of people who are level corruption, and also because there are many allegations of corruption, apparently because they tell the radio every time they hear some corruption allegation. And then also the question of, some people also think corruption is high because it's a custom in Nigeria. So it's also an intriguing factor how if people think it's a custom, then they look as we try to tackle corruption to need to look at our whole system, how do we address the way we deal with one another. So it is something very key to be able to look at.
Transitioning to the report's launch, Nikuli Maskahana, Program Officer on Democracy and Human Rights at the Swedish Embassy, urged Liberia to intensify its efforts in combating corruption.
And to address this, it's not enough to just establishing integrity institutions and passing bills to increase transparency. This also needs to be implemented. And in order to do so, institutions needs to be able to fulfill their mandates. And this does not only need dedicated personnel that lead by example, it also requires financial allocations. But there are, of course, a lot of possibilities to change this, if political will to do so exists.
Jeffrey Yates, the head of Secretariat for the Liberia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, emphasized the need for collaborative endeavors in the ongoing battle against corruption in Liberia.
Over the past few weeks and few months, there has been some attacks on integrity institutions, whether by individuals in the executive, what about individuals in at the national legislature? There are attacks on integrity institutions. I would think that the best way to coordinate your attack is to reach out to these integrity institutions and ask them what they are doing, understand their core mandate.
As a combination, anti-corruption institutions have pledged to join forces aiming for a collective and effective fight against corruption. For NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Nade Tete in Accra joins us now with the major headlines from the Ghanaian dailies.
Greetings from Accra, Ghana. We'll start off with the biggest newspaper as usual. The banner headline of the Daily Graphic reads, "Mental health comes under NHIS," and that was reviewed by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Public officers law will strengthen corruption fight. That's according to the Attorney General. Let's now go to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Government plots new anti-corruption action plan in first quarter of 2025 to replace NACAP 1. 2 policemen, 4 foreign nationals arrested for galamsey in Krokosia Hills, Dwaboso Forest. Now to the Chronicle newspaper. Otumfuo embraces education reforms, commends Minister Educhum for his transformational ideas. Culture of secrecy frustrating RTI law. That's according to the Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah. Now to the New Crusading Guide newspaper. AG makes case for Ghana, highlights progress in corruption fight. Our commitment towards RTI unwavering. Kojo Nkrumah is Ghana's Information Minister, and he's saying that. To another guide, which is the Daily Guide newspaper. Banner headline: Digitalization eliminates corruption. Attorney General tells the UN. Minority chases BOG governors removal. And NPP mourns Ama Buzia. To the Anchor newspaper now. Deadly spy virus exposes WhatsApp users and others to hackers. Android device users at risk as national security investigates. To the final newspaper now, data of citizens critical. Let's address challenges. That's a call coming in from the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Tokonu. 68% cut in WASH sector funding. Water Aid Ghana is worried about it. So that will be it for today's press review from Ghana. My name is Nadi Diteti. Back to you in the studio.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In our discussion this afternoon, our focus shifts to the Nigerian junta's apparent lack of enthusiasm regarding ECOWAS' shift from a firm stance to a more flexible position. General Abdurrahman Chani, in a televised address, emphatically declared that Bazoum's house arrest will persist indefinitely. To navigate the challenging situation in Niger, Benin President Patrice Talon has been appointed as a mediator. However, regional experts expressed skepticism about the success of this mediation, citing the strained relationship between Benin and Niger. Here is Adeni Ikunu, an international relations expert.
I must tell you that ECOWAS had not presented a coordinated approach to resolving the problems associated with the quartet of coups that have actually displaced the supposedly democratic leaders, democratic leaders of the likes of Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, and also Niger. Do not forget that I have questioned the high-handedness with which ECOWAS wanted to just go into Niger, because if I looked at the antecedents associated with these repeated coups, the way the ECOWAS body actually went about the incident of coup in Niger was different from the coups that had happened in Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Mali. And it, got me curious about the particular interest in Niger.
So why do you think ECOWAS is treating Niger differently from other coup states in the region, as you stated?
Perhaps maybe we're talking about the proximity to Nigeria, perhaps the cultural and historical affinity, and the abundance of resources under the soil of Niger that some of these other countries have been benefiting from. So when we talked about the verdict of the military ruler Abdurrahmani Chiani, maybe perhaps he felt some people sponsored the foiled escape of Mr. Bazoum in October. Don't forget that Mr. Bazoum, his family and his school almost escaped in a helicopter, and that perhaps has provided a stronger resolve not to release Mr. Bazoum from more or less house arrest, as it were. So when we talk about the position of the current administration in Niger that says it will not release Mr. Bazoum very soon, I think we must understand that the coup in October probably influenced or prompted such decision.
So, one of the arguments that has popped up also is about the delegated person, Patrice Talon of Benin, of being a delay card that ECOWAS intends to use so that the sanctions would not be eased as promised, because currently Niger and Benin are not the best of friends. Are you of the same view?
Well, I think that anybody who is to lead a delegation that want to mediate in such frustrated relationship as we have between the Niger Republic and the ECOWAS body has to be somebody who is not seen as taking certain levels of interest in the politics that is against that country that is under fire. There are lots of recognized diplomats across the ECOWAS community that have the reputation and could be considered as those who, for instance, are not interested party. Let me speak to the issue of the likes of former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. He is a highly regarded leader in terms of mediation, in terms of being somebody who speaks, and is still very active anywhere on the continent. So when you're talking about a country like Benin that is under the whims and caprices of France, and somebody there is now coming to want to mediate, then I think that there's an issue. I'm just saying this because the people that are supposed representatives of mediators or those that want to mediate in the crisis must be seen as those whose hands are not soiled. Then the military leaders themselves still have lots of politicians who understand the antecedents of these people and who repeatedly feel that anybody who must have a say in what affects our lives should be somebody or should be people who really have not criticized what has happened in our country and looked away from what has happened in 3 other countries where this coup have actually taken place.
Adeni Kunu is an international relations expert. Here is Sankule Janko with the sports update.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football CAF has announced EcoBank as official sponsor of the Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations Côte d'Ivoire 2023. This announcement was made as 24 countries prepare to compete for the top prize. The Total Energies CAF Africa Cup of Nations, the biggest event in African football, will kick off on 13 January 2024 in Côte d'Ivoire. Elsewhere, Nigeria international Samuel Chukwueze was the hero of the night as he scored the winner for AC Milan in their 2-1 win against Newcastle United in the UEFA Champions League on Wednesday evening. The win helped the Italian Giants to secure a place in the UEFA Europa Cup. Gambia's Yankuba Minte also scored for Dutch side Feyenoord in their 2-1 defeat to Celtic in the UEFA Champions League game. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we have come to the end of this edition of NewsLink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudou Diouf for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Taufik Abdul Nasir. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NewsLink via Hot 104.3 FM.